The massive space station floated in the darkness like a small moon made of metal and glass. Jacob Hayes stood at the window of his ship and watched it grow larger as they approached. He had traveled 6 months to reach this place. 6 months of preparation and practice for this one meeting. Earth had finally made contact with the galactic community, and Jacob was the man chosen to represent humanity. His heart beat faster as the docking procedure began. The station was called Commerce Hub Alpha, and it served as the main meeting point for new species joining the council. Jacob had read everything available about galactic politics and customs. He knew the council had existed for 3,000 years. He knew they governed over 200 different alien species. What he did not know was whether they would take humanity seriously. The meeting room was cold and gray. 3 aliens sat behind a long table looking down at Jacob. One looked like living crystal that reflected light in strange colors. Another was covered in green scales with yellow eyes that blinked sideways. The third was just a ball of glowing energy that floated above its chair. Jacob placed his briefcase on the table and opened it carefully. Inside were data chips containing all of Earth's technological information. He had weapons specifications and engine designs and medical advances. He had everything humanity wanted to share with the galaxy. The crystal alien spoke first, and its voice sounded like wind chimes. It said Earth's engines were adequate for a new species. It said the quantum drives were standard technology that every spacefaring race eventually discovered. Jacob tried to interrupt, but the scaled alien cut him off. It asked if humans still used projectile weapons and chemical explosives. Its tongue flicked out in what looked like disgust. Jacob felt his face grow hot. Yes, humans used kinetic weapons, but they had evolved far beyond simple bullets. The fusion lance cannons on Earth's prototype warships could output more energy than anything he had seen in the galactic database. He tried to explain this, but the energy being pulsed a dull yellow color. It said the Council had reviewed 17 new species this year alone. Earth would receive associate membership and trading rights. The military technology was noted but not needed. There had not been a major war in 400 years. Jacob pushed the data chips across the table. He asked them to please review the actual specifications before making their final assessment. The crystal alien did not even look at the chips. It said the meeting was concluded. Jacob was welcomed to the galactic community and invited to enjoy the shopping district on level 7. That was it. 30 minutes of discussion, and Earth's fate was sealed. The Council thought humans were primitive. They had not even tested a single weapon. They had not asked about power output or range or accuracy. They saw the words kinetic energy and thermal weapons and assumed they understood everything. Jacob returned to his ship feeling hollow inside. 3 weeks later, Jacob sat in a conference room back on Earth. Admiral Peter Garrett listened to his report with a face like stone. Around the table sat other military officers and scientists. They all looked angry. The Redder 17, Admiral Peter, Dr. Helen Morgan, who led the weapons program, laughed, but it was not a happy sound. She asked if the Council had inquired about penetration capabilities or energy efficiency. Jacob shook his head. They had asked about nothing. To the galactic community, Earth was just another backward planet that got lucky with faster-than-light travel. Associate membership meant humans could trade in certain zones and follow Council laws. It meant humanity was allowed to exist, but not allowed to matter. Colonel Raymond Pierce slammed his hand on the table. He said Earth was being treated like a developing nation. Jacob agreed. The Council had decided humanity was irrelevant without even looking at the evidence. Admiral Garrett stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over the lake. He said the galaxy had made a mistake in dismissing human engineering. He said Earth would continue building its prototype warship exactly as planned. If the Council did not want to take humanity seriously, that was their loss. Dr. Morgan said the USS Endeavour was 60% complete. She could have it operational within 8 months. Garrett told her to make it 6 months. He told her to keep it quiet. Associate members had limited rights anyway, so no one needed to know about Earth's new battleship. Jacob felt cold suddenly. The Endeavour was not just another ship. It was humanity's first true warship, designed from the ground up to fight and win. The fusion lance cannons alone could theoretically destroy any ship in the Council fleet. Theoretically, because they had never been tested against actual galactic military hardware. Jacob asked what would happen if Earth deployed an unauthorized military vessel. Garrett said the Council could only complain if someone reported it. Who would report a ship they thought was harmless? Earth would call it a deep space exploration vessel with defensive weapons. They would smile and follow the rules and stay in their designated trade lanes. Colonel Pierce asked, "Until when?" Garrett turned from the window and his eyes were hard. He said until the galaxy gave humanity a reason to show them what Earth's engineers could really build. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what Garrett was suggesting. Earth would build its warship in secret. Earth would develop its weapons without Council oversight. And when the time came, Earth would prove that human technology was anything but primitive. The Council had made their assessment based on assumptions and prejudice. They had looked at humanity's weapons and seen only familiar concepts. They had not asked about the revolutionary power systems, or the advanced targeting computers, or the shield technology that borrowed from quantum physics. They had not asked because they thought they already knew the answers. Jacob looked at the data chips still sitting in his briefcase. The ones the Council had refused to examine. Inside those chips was information that could have changed everything. Technical specifications that showed human weapons operating at energy levels far beyond current galactic standards. Test results that proved human shields could absorb and redirect damage in ways the Council had never imagined. Battle simulations that demonstrated tactics the galaxy had forgotten during 400 years of peace. All of it dismissed without a second glance. Dr. Morgan began talking about the Endeavour's capabilities. She explained how the fusion lance worked by creating controlled thermonuclear reactions and focusing the energy into a directed beam. She showed power output charts that made the officers whistle in appreciation. She displayed armor penetration simulations that showed the lance cutting through standard galactic military plating like it was paper. The weapons were revolutionary because they approached the problem differently than anything the Council used. The Council relied on plasma weapons and gravity disruptors, technologies they had perfected over centuries, but never fundamentally changed. Human engineers had started from scratch, with no preconceptions about how space weapons should work. Admiral Garrett asked about the timeline again. Dr. Morgan confirmed 6 months until the Endeavour was operational. Garrett nodded and said to begin final assembly. He said to recruit the best crew Earth had available. He said, when the Endeavour launched, she would be a message to the galaxy. A message that said humanity would not be ignored or dismissed. A message written in steel and fire, and the kind of determination that had carried humans from caves to the stars. The meeting ended, and people filed out talking in quiet voices. Jacob remained seated, staring at his briefcase. The galaxy thought Earth was primitive. They thought humans were harmless. They had made that assessment without evidence or investigation. It was the biggest mistake the Council had made in 1,000 years. And soon enough, they would realize it. 6 months passed, and the USS Endeavour hung in orbit above Earth like a sleeping giant. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood in the observation deck of the construction yard, watching the final pieces being attached to his ship. She was 400 meters of smooth metal and composite armor. Every line was functional, and every system was designed for one purpose: war. Ryan was 42 years old, and had commanded 3 smaller vessels before this. He had earned his position through tactical brilliance and a willingness to question every rule. Now he stood looking at the most advanced warship humanity had ever built, and felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Commander Laura Price stood beside him, studying the ship through the window. She was his executive officer, and had a reputation for ruthless efficiency. She said the Endeavour was magnificent. Ryan agreed, but added that every major system was experimental. The fusion lances had never been fired at full power. The gravitational shields were based on theory more than practice. The reactor design was revolutionary but untested in actual combat. They were flying a prototype into a galaxy that thought humans were primitive. Laura smiled and said that was what made it interesting. Dr. Helen Morgan arrived with her tablet displaying readiness reports. She wanted to brief the captain personally on the weapon systems. They moved to a conference room where holographic displays showed the Endeavour in perfect detail. Morgan explained that the Council used plasma weapons, which were superheated matter fired at incredible speeds. The plasma was effective, but required enormous power and lost strength over distance. Their gravity disruptors were more efficient, but less effective against hardened military targets. Human fusion lances took a completely different approach. Instead of containing and projecting matter, they created directed fusion reactions in external chambers. It was essentially a controlled nuclear explosion that could be aimed and fired continuously as long as fuel lasted. Ryan asked about power output. Morgan said in laboratory testing they had sustained a beam that could penetrate 3 meters of standard galactic armor plating. That was roughly 10 times more powerful than comparable Council weapons. Laura noted that was only theoretical. Morgan agreed they could not test against actual alien warships, but the physics was solid. She pulled up another display showing the point defense systems. Rapid-fire railguns using magnetically accelerated tungsten rounds. Simple and reliable, and fast enough to intercept incoming plasma weapons. Ryan asked about enemy shields. Morgan said that was the interesting part. Council ships used gravitational shielding, which worked well against energy weapons and kinetic projectiles. But simulations suggested a sustained fusion lance beam might overload their shield generators. The sheer energy throughput was beyond what their systems were designed to handle. Laura leaned forward and asked if they could actually punch through Council military shields. Morgan said honestly they did not know for certain. They were operating in uncharted territory. The Council was so confident in their technology they had not innovated in centuries. They used the same basic weapons and defenses for generations. Humans were bringing entirely new approaches that the galaxy had never seen. Ryan asked what happened if they were wrong, if the weapons did not perform as expected. Morgan said simply that they would learn something. That was what prototypes were for. The next week, the Endeavour completed her first space trials. The ship performed perfectly. Her engines were powerful, and her systems were responsive. The crew was professional and well-trained. They ran combat drills against simulated targets in deep space. They tested the fusion lances at reduced power against asteroids. They pushed every system to find its limits. Ryan sat in the captain's chair, feeling the ship respond to his commands like a living thing. He ordered the weapons officer to bring the port fusion lance to full power. Lieutenant Ben Harris acknowledged and began the charging sequence. Power levels climbed from 20% to 40 to 60. The bridge lights dimmed as energy was redirected to the weapons. Harris reported the fusion lance at full power. Ryan gave the order to fire. A brilliant blue-white beam shot out from the Endeavour and crossed 3,000 kilometers in less than a second. The target asteroid did not just explode. It vaporized. One moment it was solid rock, and the next it was expanding gas. The bridge fell silent. Laura said quietly that it definitely worked. Ryan smiled and asked about recharge time. Harris said 8 seconds at full power. They could sustain lower power beams indefinitely. Ryan asked about power reserves. The reactor was running at only 40% capacity. They could fire all 4 lances simultaneously and still have power to spare. Ryan exchanged a look with Laura. They were both thinking the same thing. The Council had made a serious mistake dismissing human military technology. He ordered them to run the drill again, with all 4 lances. He wanted to know their maximum sustainable fire rate. Over the next month, the Endeavour completed all her trials and was officially commissioned into Earth's defense fleet. The galactic community took no notice. To them, Earth was just another associate member building their primitive ships and trying to catch up. In the Council's central database, the Endeavour was registered as a Class 3 exploration vessel with defensive armament. No one investigated further because no one cared. Humans were harmless. That misconception would last exactly 47 days. The merchant ship Stellar Hope was 3 days out from Earth, carrying processed metals and computer components to Commerce Hub Alpha. Captain Owen Clark had been running this trade route for 6 months. He was a veteran trader who knew how to navigate the complex regulations of galactic commerce. His navigator, Karen West, alerted him to a distress signal. Standard Council frequency. Origin point was approximately 2 hours away. Owen considered his options. Council law required all vessels to respond to distress calls. Ignoring someone in trouble seemed like a poor way to build goodwill with the galactic community. He ordered Karen to change course. 2 hours later, the Stellar Hope dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the distress beacon coordinates. What they found made Owen's blood run cold. A Vorian cargo hauler was dead in space with her hull breached in dozens of places. Debris floated around the ship like a cloud. But worse were the 6 sleek, predatory vessels circling the wreck. Pirates. Owen tried to send a transmission asking for council enforcement, but the pirates locked weapons on his ship. Karen shouted that they were opening fire. Plasma bolts struck their shields, and the Stellar Hope shuddered. Alarms blared across the bridge. Karen said shields were at 60%. They could not take many more hits. Owen ordered her to prepare for faster-than-light jump, but she said they were being jammed. They were trapped. Another impact, and the lights flickered. Metal groaned somewhere in the ship. Shields dropped to 30%. The next hit would breach the hull. Owen stared at the view screen, watching the pirates close in for the kill. He realized he was about to die far from home at the hands of criminals. The council was nowhere around to stop. Then space in front of them tore open in a flash of light, and the USS Endeavour dropped into normal space. Ryan Mitchell assessed the situation in seconds. 6 pirate vessels. 1 friendly merchant with failing shields. 1 destroyed alien ship. He ordered Tactical to get firing solutions on all 6 hostiles. Lieutenant Harris confirmed, solutions locked. Ryan ordered a hail, sent to the pirates. Standard warning. Laura opened a channel and identified the Endeavour as a United Earth Navy vessel. She ordered the pirates to stand down immediately or face destruction. The pirates responded with a barrage of plasma fire directed at the Endeavour. The bolts splashed against the gravitational shields and barely registered on the power grid. Ryan said calmly that they had tried diplomacy. He ordered weapons free and told Harris to target the ships engaging the Stellar Hope first. 4 blue-white beams lanced out from the Endeavour simultaneously. The pirates had no time to react. The first pirate ship simply ceased to exist, cut in half by a fusion lance that ignored its shields completely. The second took a glancing hit that vaporized its entire port side. The ship spun away, trailing atmosphere and debris. The remaining 4 pirates turned their attention to this new threat. They spread out, trying to flank while firing coordinated volleys. Ryan's tactical officer reported shields holding at 98%. The pirate weapons were not even straining their systems. Ryan ordered point defense to intercept incoming fire and weapons to begin continuous sweeping fire. The Endeavour's railguns came online, filling space with tungsten projectiles that intercepted plasma bolts before they could reach the ship. The fusion lances fired in sustained beams that carved through space. The third pirate exploded as a lance pierced its reactor. The fourth tried evasive maneuvers, but the targeting systems tracked it perfectly. A 2-second burst from 2 lances reduced it to gas. The final 2 pirates attempted to flee. Ryan considered letting them go, then decided against it. If they reported what they had seen here, it could cause complications. He ordered weapons not to let them jump. The Endeavour accelerated, and her fusion lances reached across thousands of kilometers. The last 2 pirates died before they could escape. Silence fell on the bridge. Ryan ordered a scan for survivors and told communications to contact the Stellar Hope. The human merchant ship had witnessed everything. Owen Clark's face appeared on the view screen, looking shocked and pale. He thanked Captain Mitchell for saving their lives. Ryan said they were just doing their job, and asked if the Stellar Hope was intact. Owen said they had some damage to shields and hull plating, but nothing critical. He paused and seemed to struggle with his words. He said he had seen Council enforcement actions before. He had seen their weapons in use. What the Endeavor just did was nothing like that. Those pirate ships did not stand a chance. 6 vessels destroyed in under 3 minutes. Ryan kept his face neutral and said they were fortunate the pirates underestimated them. Owen shook his head. He said it was not fortune. The Endeavor had cut through pirate shields like they were paper. The weapons were beyond anything he had seen in galactic space. He said the Council was going to want to know about this. Ryan felt the weight of that statement. Word would spread. Questions would be asked. Earth's secret would be exposed. He told Owen to file an accurate report of what happened. Do not add details, but do not minimize either. Tell them exactly what he witnessed. Owen asked why. Would that not cause problems for Earth? Ryan smiled thinly. He said possibly, but it might also make certain parties reconsider their assumptions about human technology. They would deal with the consequences. After the call ended, Laura turned to Ryan. She said Admiral Garrett was going to have strong words about revealing their capabilities like this. Ryan agreed, but asked what they were supposed to do. Let pirates kill human citizens. Stand by while they destroyed Council ships. Sometimes circumstances forced your hand. Sometimes you could not hide your strength. Laura asked what happened now. Ryan said they would complete their patrol and submit their reports. Then they would wait to see how the galaxy reacted to news that humanity's primitive weapons had effortlessly destroyed 6 pirate vessels that had been plaguing this sector for months. On Commerce Hub Alpha, in an office overlooking the busy docking bays, Counselor Thrace received the report with disbelief. He was a senior diplomat of the Kesh species. His reptilian features twisted in confusion as he read. He said it was impossible. Human weapons were primitive. The Council had reviewed their specifications, chemical projectiles, and crude energy systems. They could not possibly achieve what this report claimed. His aide was a young Vorian named Shimmer who pulsed an anxious blue color. Shimmer said they had testimony from multiple sources. Captain Clark's report, sensor logs from the Stellar Hope, even data recovered from pirate communication buoys before they were destroyed. The human vessel's weapons had cut through military-grade shields in seconds. Thrace insisted the shields must have been degraded. Pirates did not maintain their systems properly. Shimmer pointed out it was 6 ships, all destroyed in less than 3 minutes. The human vessel took no damage. Its shields barely registered the impacts. Thrace was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled up the original assessment from the first human diplomatic mission. The one where the Council had dismissed human military technology as unworthy of examination. He read through the specifications again, this time actually paying attention to the numbers instead of the familiar technology terms. Power output ratios for fusion lance weapons, theoretical penetration capabilities, energy efficiency ratings, recharge times. His blood ran cold as he realized what they had missed. The humans had not been exaggerating. They had provided accurate data, and the Council had ignored it because the underlying principles seemed familiar. Thrace told Shimmer to contact the Military Assessment Division. Tell them to conduct a full review of human weapons technology. Actual testing this time, not just theoretical comparisons. Shimmer acknowledged. Thrace added that this information needed to go to Council leadership immediately. They may have made a significant error in judgment. 3 weeks after the pirate incident, Ryan received orders to report to Commerce Hub Alpha for a formal inquiry. The summons was polite but firm. The Council wanted answers about the Endeavor's capabilities. Laura observed as they approached the station that the Council was probably terrified. 6 ships destroyed in 3 minutes. They had shattered all assumptions about human military power. Ryan agreed. The question was how they would respond. With curiosity, with anger, with fear. Laura guessed all 3. The inquiry took place in a much grander chamber than where Jacob Hayes had first met council representatives. This room was designed to intimidate with soaring ceilings and walls displaying symbols of 200 member species. The council representatives sat on an elevated platform, looking down at where Ryan stood alone. Councillor Thrace led the proceedings, his reptilian eyes fixed on Ryan with uncomfortable intensity. He said Ryan was here to explain the incident involving the Endeavour and 6 pirate ships in Sector 447. Ryan said he was happy to answer questions. Thrace began with the weapons. The initial assessment had classified human military technology as primitive, based on reliance on kinetic and thermal energy principles. Yet the Endeavour had destroyed 6 military-grade ships in minutes. How did Ryan explain this discrepancy? Ryan chose his words carefully. He said with respect that the initial assessment had been superficial. Just because technology followed different principles did not make it primitive. A fusion lance was not a railgun. It was a directed thermonuclear reaction controlled and focused into a weapon system. The principles might seem familiar, but the execution and power output were revolutionary. A Vorian counselor pulsed an agitated orange. It asked if Ryan was saying they had made an error in judgment. Ryan said the assessment team had not looked closely enough. They saw kinetic weapons and thermal energy and assumed they understood. But they never asked about power output ratios. They never inquired about targeting systems, or shield technology, or power generation. They looked at the label and dismissed the contents without examination. The chamber fell silent. Ryan could feel hundreds of eyes on him, representatives from dozens of species watching this human challenge the council's judgment. Thrace leaned forward. He said he would be direct. Human weapons were significantly more powerful than anything in council arsenals. This created a security concern. Earth was an associate member species with limited military rights. Yet they possessed weapons that could threaten established member worlds. Ryan asked if that was an accusation. Thrace said it was a statement of fact. 6 pirate vessels destroyed in 3 minutes. Those pirates had been operating for months, evading council enforcement fleets. They had destroyed cargo ships and killed hundreds, and the Endeavour eliminated them in less time than it took to drink coffee. Ryan met the counselor's gaze steadily. He asked if he should apologize for being effective. Thrace said Ryan should explain why Earth built such a vessel. Humanity was newly arrived to galactic society. They had no enemies, no territory beyond their own solar system. Yet they constructed a warship exceeding most military vessels in the galaxy. Why? This was the crucial moment Ryan knew. How he answered would shape relations for years. He said Earth had learned that peace was not the universe's natural state. Humanity had a long, bloody history of warfare. They had fought themselves in countless conflicts, destroyed their own cities, killed millions in pursuit of power and ideology. They learned these lessons the hard way and chose not to forget them. He gestured to the council. They had enjoyed peace for 400 years. That was admirable. But it made them complacent. They had stopped innovating and stopped pushing boundaries because they assumed they would never need better weapons. They did not know what threats existed in this galaxy, so they prepared. Another counselor interjected that Earth had prepared by building weapons capable of destroying entire fleets. Ryan corrected that they built weapons capable of defending themselves. The Endeavour was a deterrent. She existed so no one would think humanity was an easy target. She existed so pirates and raiders and hostile forces would think twice before attacking human ships or colonies. Thrace asked what would happen if the Council ordered Earth to disarm, to dismantle their weapons and submit military technology for oversight. Ryan felt his jaw tighten. He said then, Earth would refuse, respectfully but firmly. Humans were not a conquered species. They were an associate member who applied in good faith. They had broken no laws. They had attacked no peaceful vessels. They saved one of the Council's cargo ships and eliminated a pirate threat that enforcement fleets could not handle. And now, they were being treated like criminals for being competent. The chamber erupted in agitated discussion. Some counselors were clearly angry at Ryan's defiance. Others seemed thoughtful, or even impressed by his directness. Thrace raised a hand, and silence gradually returned. He said Ryan spoke boldly for a representative of an associate member species. Ryan said he spoke honestly. Was that not what this inquiry was about? Understanding what happened, and why. Thrace said what happened was, the Council's assumptions about human capabilities were proven spectacularly wrong. What happened was they now had a species with military technology they did not understand and could not counter. This was not a small matter. Ryan suggested perhaps the solution was not to demand disarmament, but to understand the technology better. The assessment team had dismissed specifications without examination. Maybe it was time for a more thorough review. Humans had never been secretive about their capabilities. The Council simply had not asked. Another Vorian pulsed curious yellow. It asked if Ryan would share weapons technology with the Council. Ryan said they would share the principles. Not complete specifications or manufacturing details, but enough to understand what they were dealing with. Knowledge reduced fear. Transparency built trust. Thrace studied Ryan for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, his rigid posture relaxed slightly. He said Ryan was either very brave or very foolish. Possibly both. But he made compelling arguments. Ryan thanked him. Thrace continued that, however, the Council would require assurances. Earth would provide detailed specifications of military capabilities. They would limit the number of vessels with these weapons, and they would submit to regular inspections to ensure compliance. Ryan felt his temper flare. He said absolutely not. Thrace asked, "Excuse me." Ryan said, "They would not accept discriminatory oversight. If the Council wanted to inspect human capabilities, then all member species should face the same inspections. Otherwise, they were simply trying to control a species whose power made them uncomfortable." Thrace began to object, but Ryan interrupted. He said he insisted on equal treatment under galactic law. They would provide technical specifications. They would discuss theoretical limits of their technology, but they would not accept being treated as a potential threat when they had done nothing but defend themselves and others. They would not be second-class members of this council. The chamber fell silent again. Ryan knew he was taking enormous risk. The council could revoke Earth's status. They could impose sanctions. They could make life difficult for humanity, but they could not force Earth to disarm. Not without war. And after seeing what the endeavor could do, Ryan suspected the Council was deeply uncertain about how such conflict would end. Finally, Thrace spoke. He said the inquiry was adjourned. The Council would consider Ryan's statements. He would remain on the station, pending their decision. As Ryan left the chamber, Laura was waiting in the corridor. She asked quietly how bad it was. Ryan said either very bad or potentially very good. Hard to tell which. Laura asked what they did now. Ryan said they waited, and they prepared for the possibility that humanity's galactic adventure was about to become very complicated indeed. The Council's deliberations lasted 3 days. During that time, Ryan remained on Commerce Hub Alpha, living in diplomatic quarters and trying not to think about the hundreds of ways this could end badly for Earth. He spent his time reviewing tactical data and checking in with his crew on the endeavor. Laura kept him updated on the mood among the Council representatives. Rumors were spreading. Some species were calling for Earth's expulsion. Others were calling for immediate military assessments. A few were quietly suggesting that maybe the Council needed to reconsider their entire approach to military technology. On the 3rd day, Ryan was summoned back to the Council chambers. The atmosphere was different this time. Less hostile and more contemplative. Councillor Thrace looked tired, as if he had spent 72 hours in intense debate. Thrace began by saying the Council had reached a decision regarding Earth and human military capabilities. Ryan braced himself. Thrace said first they acknowledged their initial assessment of human technology had been insufficient. They made assumptions based on superficial reviews and failed to recognize the potential of humanity's unique approaches to military engineering. This was an error on their part. Ryan blinked in surprise at the admission. Thrace continued that second they recognized demanding Earth disarm, while other species maintained militaries, would be inequitable and unjust. They would not pursue that course of action. Relief flooded through Ryan, though he kept his face neutral. Thrace said, however, they could not simply ignore that an associate member possessed capabilities exceeding most full-member militaries. Therefore, the Council proposed an arrangement. A holographic display appeared showing a document with numerous clauses. Thrace explained that Earth would be granted full Council membership effective immediately. This included all rights and responsibilities, participation in debates, access to restricted technology databases, the right to maintain military forces proportional to population and territory. Ryan's eyes widened. Full membership was years ahead of the normal timeline. Thrace said in exchange, Earth would share theoretical principles of fusion lance technology with the Council's military research division. Not complete specifications, but enough to understand the underlying science. Additionally, Earth would participate in joint military exercises with Council enforcement fleets, so forces could learn to work together. Ryan asked about the inspections Thrace had mentioned before. Thrace said there would be no special inspections beyond what was required of all Council members. Ryan had wanted equal treatment. He would get it. Ryan was silent, processing this unexpected turn. He asked, what changed the Council's position? Thrace's reptilian features twisted into something like a smile. He said, pragmatism. They reviewed sensor data from the pirate encounter. They ran simulations. They consulted military strategists. And they reached an uncomfortable conclusion. If Earth decided to be hostile, they were not certain they could stop humanity. At least not without significant losses. He gestured to the Council. They had been comfortable too long, as Ryan noted. Their weapons had not meaningfully improved in centuries. Military doctrine was stagnant. Humans had reminded them the universe was not as safe as assumed. Another counselor spoke up. An energy. Being pulsing bright green. It said humans brought fresh perspectives and new ideas. Innovative approaches to old problems. They had been fools to dismiss contributions, simply because they did not match existing paradigms. They would not make that mistake again. Ryan felt pride and relief mixing together. He said, speaking for Earth, he accepted subject to final approval from their government. Thrace said, excellent. Now there was one additional matter. The pirates Ryan destroyed were part of a larger organization. Intelligence suggested they had a base in the outer reaches, with possibly 30 vessels. The Council had been trying to locate and eliminate this threat for 6 months without success. They would like the endeavor to lead a task force against this pirate stronghold. Consider it Earth's first official action as a full Council member, and an opportunity to demonstrate military capabilities in controlled setting. Ryan said with amusement that the Council wanted Earth to do the job their enforcement fleets could not. Thrace replied bluntly that they wanted to see if success against 6 pirates was skill or luck. And yes, they could use the help. These pirates had cost billions in lost trade and hundreds of lives. If human weapons were as effective as believed, this could be resolved quickly. Ryan considered. It was a test, clearly, but also an opportunity to cement humanity's reputation as capable military power. He said they would do it on one condition. Thrace asked which. Ryan said some Council enforcement ships should join them, not necessarily to fight but to observe. If Earth was becoming a full member, they needed to build working relationships with Council military forces. Thrace nodded slowly. He said, agreed. They would assign 3 enforcement cruisers to accompany the endeavor. Ryan asked when they could depart. Thrace said, give us 48 hours to organize the task force. Ryan said they would be ready. 2 days later, the USS Endeavour led a small flotilla into the outer reaches, accompanied by 3 Council enforcement cruisers. The Council ships were impressive in their own way, larger than the Endeavour and covered in plasma weapons and gravity disruptors. Laura watched them on sensors. She said they were maintaining respectful distance, probably nervous about being too close to human fusion lances. Ryan said he could not blame them. He ordered sensors to begin full sweep, looking for energy signatures or drive emissions or anything suggesting large settlement. It took 6 hours of methodical searching, but eventually they found it. A massive asteroid hollowed out and converted into a fortress. Sensor readings showed dozens of ships docked inside and around the facility. Significant weapons emplacements covered the approaches. Lieutenant Harris whistled softly. He said he counted 37 pirate vessels. Most were frigates like before, but there were at least 5 larger ships, probably destroyer class. And those weapons platforms were serious. Multiple plasma cannons and missile systems. Heavy shielding on the asteroid itself. Laura reported the council ships were hailing. Admiral Kresh wanted their tactical assessment. Ryan told her to put him on screen. A reptilian Kesh appeared with deep green scales. He identified himself as Admiral Kresh of the 3rd Enforcement Fleet. He advised caution. That facility was heavily defended. Direct assault would result in significant casualties. Ryan asked for his recommended approach. Kresh said traditionally they would lay siege. Cut off supplies and wait for resources to deplete. It took time but minimized risks. Ryan asked how much time. Kresh said 2 to 3 months typically. Ryan exchanged glances with Laura. 3 months of blockade duty did not appeal. He said with respect he had a different proposal. Hit them fast and hard. Use fusion lances to take out weapons platforms, then destroy docked ships before they could launch. Council vessels could provide covering fire and intercept any pirates that escaped. Kresh looked skeptical. He said there were over 30 hostile vessels. The Endeavor, while impressive, was only one ship. Ryan said one very well-armed ship. Trust me on this, Admiral. There was a pause. Then Kresh nodded slowly. He said very well. He would defer to Ryan's tactical judgment, but he hoped Ryan knew what he was doing. Ryan said so did he. He ordered all hands to battle stations. This was not a drill. Prepare for combat operations. Alarms sounded throughout the ship. Crews rushed to positions. Weapons powered up. Shields strengthened to maximum. Ryan ordered tactical to get firing solutions on every weapons platform and docked ship. Prioritize platforms first, then larger vessels. Harris confirmed solutions computed. Ryan told the helmsman to bring them in fast at maximum combat speed. Give the pirates as little time to react as possible. The Endeavor accelerated toward the fortress. Her fusion drives burned bright against the darkness. Behind her, the 3 council cruisers moved to flanking positions with crews watching nervously. Harris reported enemy weapons locking on. They were opening fire. Plasma bolts streaked toward the Endeavor. Brilliant, superheated matter that would cripple most ships. The point defense railguns opened up, filling space with tungsten projectiles that intercepted plasma before it reached shields. Harris said shields, holding with no damage. Ryan asked range to primary targets. Harris said 10,000 kilometers, 8,000, 6,000. They were in optimal firing range. Ryan ordered all fusion lances to continuous fire. Target platforms first, then sweep through docked ships. Make every shot count. Harris acknowledged and pressed the firing controls. 4 blue-white beams lanced out from the Endeavor, and the universe seemed to hold its breath. The first weapons platform exploded as a fusion lance pierced its core. The sustained beam turned armor and machinery into vapor. The second platform lasted barely longer. Its shields overloaded instantly, under impossible energy output. The fusion lances swept across the pirate fortress like divine wrath. Platforms exploded. Docked ships vaporized. The asteroid's surface glowed red, then white as intense energy heated rock toward melting. Pirates attempted to launch ships to mount some defense, but they were too slow. The Endeavor's targeting systems tracked every vessel and every threat. The fusion lances never stopped firing. 4 continuous beams of directed thermonuclear energy carved through the pirate force with clinical precision. Laura reported multiple pirates attempting to flee. Ryan told the council ships they were up. Do not let any escape. Admiral Kresh's voice came through, filled with barely suppressed awe. He said understood and acknowledged engaging pursuit. The Council cruisers moved with practiced efficiency. Their plasma weapons and gravity disruptors picked off fleeing pirates, but they were almost not needed. The Endeavour was methodically destroying the pirate force, ship by ship. Her fusion lances overwhelmed every defense and penetrated every shield. 7 minutes after the battle began, it was over. 37 pirate vessels destroyed. All weapons platforms eliminated. The asteroid fortress was a glowing, ruined shell with its interior exposed to space. All life support and power systems obliterated. On the Endeavour's bridge, the crew sat in stunned silence, barely able to believe what they accomplished. Ryan asked for damage report, with steady voice, despite adrenaline. Harris said shields at 82%. No hull damage, no casualties, all systems nominal. Laura said quietly that Admiral Kresh was hailing. Ryan nodded and told her to put him through. Kresh appeared on screen. His expression was difficult to read, but his voice carried profound respect. He said they had no words. 7 minutes. The Endeavour destroyed an entire pirate fleet in 7 minutes. The Council had been trying to eliminate this threat for months, and Ryan did it in less time than filing a combat report. Ryan said they had good intelligence and right tools for the job. Kresh said no. Humans had weapons that should not exist. Weapons the Council dismissed as primitive. Weapons that just rewrote understanding of military capability. He paused. The Council was right to grant full membership. Humanity was going to change the balance of power in this galaxy. After the call ended, Laura turned to Ryan. She asked what happened now. The entire Council just saw what Earth could do. Every species in the galaxy would be talking about this. Ryan stared at the view screen where ruins of the pirate fortress slowly tumbled through space. A testament to human engineering and ingenuity. He said now, they proved power and wisdom could coexist. They would show the galaxy Earth was responsible. They would share what they learned and help where they could. They would make clear that while they could defend themselves, they were not conquerors. Laura asked what if someone tested them. Ryan smiled grimly. Then they would remind the galaxy why they should never have ignored Earth's prototypes. The Endeavour turned away from the destroyed fortress and set course back toward Council space. Behind them floated the wreckage of 37 pirate ships and the shattered remains of a stronghold that had threatened galactic commerce for months. All of it destroyed in 7 minutes by a single human warship. A warship the Council had dismissed without examination. A warship built on principles they thought were primitive. A warship that had just changed everything. The journey back was quiet. Crews processed what they had done. The Council ships maintained their distance, still uncertain about these humans and their revolutionary weapons. Admiral Kresh sent regular updates to Council leadership. His reports were factual, but the underlying message was clear. Earth was not to be underestimated again. 3 months after Earth achieved full Council membership, Admiral Peter Garrett stood in the same briefing room where everything had begun. Captain Ryan Mitchell and Commander Jacob Hayes stood with him, along with representatives from a dozen nations and the newly formed Earth Council for Galactic Affairs. The holographic display showed the current galactic situation in detail. Trade agreements with 43 species. Technology exchange programs. Military cooperation initiatives. And most importantly, full voting rights in Council deliberations. Garrett said thanks to the Endeavour's actions, Earth had transformed from ignored associate member to respected full member in less than a year. No one called humans primitive anymore. Jacob smiled, remembering when the Council would not even look at specifications. Garrett said they were looking now. Perhaps too intently. 6 more species had requested technology exchanges just this week. Laura noted they needed to handle that carefully. Earth should not simply hand over military secrets, but selective sharing in exchange for access to alien technologies would benefit everyone. Garrett agreed. Ryan had been quiet, studying star maps and political assessments. Finally, he spoke. He asked what Earth's long-term strategy was. They had demonstrated military capability and earned respect. But power without purpose was just intimidation. Garrett said that was a wise question. The answer was building alliances and contributing to galactic security. Help solve problems others could not or would not address. The pirate fortress was just the beginning. There were other threats and other challenges. Earth, with its fresh perspective and innovative technology, was uniquely positioned to address them. He pulled up another display showing deep space sensor readings. There were regions even the Council avoided, unexplored territories, and potential threats ignored because they were too difficult or dangerous. That was where Earth could make real difference, Jacob observed. Garrett wanted humans to be the Council's problem solvers. Garrett corrected that he wanted Earth to be indispensable. So when future conflicts arose and difficult decisions needed making, Earth would have a voice at the table. Not because they were intimidating, but because they were valuable. Ryan nodded slowly. It was sound strategy, playing to humanity's strengths while building lasting partnerships. He asked about the Endeavor. Garrett said the ship would continue as flagship. Ryan would lead exploratory missions and handle high-risk situations. And yes, occasionally remind the galaxy why they should not underestimate human engineering. Garrett smiled. Ryan had become something of a legend. The captain who destroyed a pirate fleet in 7 minutes. The ship that made the Council reconsider fundamental assumptions about military technology. Ryan said dryly there was no pressure then. Garrett laughed and said plenty of pressure. But if anyone could handle it, Ryan and his crew could. The meeting continued for another hour, discussing details of upcoming missions and diplomatic initiatives. When it ended, Jacob approached Ryan privately. He said it was remarkable how much had changed. A year ago, the Council dismissed humanity without examination. Now they were full members with influence and respect. Ryan agreed, but noted the real test was ahead, proving Earth deserved that respect through actions, not just demonstrations of power. Jacob asked if Ryan ever worried about the responsibility. One ship had changed everything for humanity. Ryan admitted he thought about it constantly. The Endeavor was more than metal and weapons. She was a symbol of human capability and determination. Every action they took reflected on all of Earth. Jacob said that was a heavy burden. Ryan agreed, but said it was one he and his crew accepted willingly. 6 months after achieving full membership, the USS Endeavor departed on her first deep space exploration mission. The destination was a region where strange energy readings had been detected. She was accompanied by ships from 5 other species, representing the new era of galactic cooperation. On the bridge, Ryan watched stars streak past as the Endeavor jumped to faster-than-light travel. The helmsman reported course laid in with estimated arrival at the anomaly in 4 weeks. Ryan acknowledged and ordered standard watch rotations. He reminded engineering to test the new shield modifications before arrival. Laura smiled and asked if he was still not satisfied with their defenses. Ryan said the galaxy was big and full of surprises. Some pleasant and some not. He would rather be overprepared than caught off guard. Lieutenant Harris reported the Council ships were maintaining formation. They seemed nervous about the fusion lances. Ryan said they would get used to humans eventually. Or they would not. Either way, Earth had a job to do. He settled into the captain's chair, feeling the gentle thrum of engines through deck plates. This ship and this crew had changed everything. They proved human ingenuity could overcome any obstacle. Even the dismissive arrogance of civilizations thousands of years old. The galaxy had ignored Earth's prototypes, assuming they understood human capabilities from superficial assessments. That mistake had cost pirate fleets their existence and forced the Council to reconsider everything they thought they knew about military technology. But more importantly, it gave humanity a chance to prove itself on the grandest stage imaginable, to show that a young species with fresh ideas could contribute meaningfully to galactic civilization. The USS Endeavor flew on into darkness, with fusion lances ready and shields strong and crew determined. Behind her, Earth watched and waited, proud of what their flagship accomplished and eager to see what challenges the galaxy would present next. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human excellence among stars had begun. And somewhere in Council archives, buried deep in rejected technology assessments, the original dismissal of human military capabilities remained on file. A reminder that assumptions, no matter how confidently made, were no substitute for actual investigation. The galaxy had learned that lesson the hard way, through destroyed pirate fleets and shattered preconceptions. They would never make that mistake again. 5 years passed, and the Endeavour remained flagship of Earth's growing fleet. But she was no longer alone. 7 more Fusion Lance-equipped battleships now patrolled human space. Each one a testament to innovation and determination that brought humanity to the stars. Ryan had been promoted to admiral commanding Earth's naval forces from newly constructed orbital headquarters above the planet. But he never forgot those early days when the galaxy dismissed human technology, and a single ship changed everything. In council chambers, Earth's representatives sat as equals among gathered species, contributing to debates about galactic policy and security and exploration. Human technology, once dismissed as primitive, was now studied and respected throughout known space. And on distant worlds in far-flung colonies, humans worked alongside dozens of alien species, sharing knowledge and solving problems and building future together. The Council had made their assessment based on superficial review and familiar terminology. They saw kinetic weapons and thermal energy, and assumed they understood. They never asked about power output or targeting systems or revolutionary reactor designs. They never investigated, because they thought they already knew the answers. That mistake had cost them credibility, and forced wholesale re-evaluation of their technological assessment procedures. Now, when new species applied for membership, their technology received thorough examination, real testing instead of theoretical comparisons, actual investigation instead of assumptions. The Council had learned that innovation could come from unexpected sources, that thousands of years of existence did not guarantee understanding of all possible approaches, that dismissing ideas simply because they did not fit existing paradigms was foolish and dangerous. Earth's success had inspired other species to question conventional wisdom and push boundaries. Military research across the galaxy had accelerated as civilizations realized their weapons had stagnated. New designs emerged, combining human principles with alien technologies. Joint research projects brought together scientists from dozens of worlds. The 400 years of comfortable peace had ended not through war but through awakening. Recognition that the universe was vast and dangerous, and preparation was not paranoia, but wisdom. And at the center of this transformation was humanity. The species that arrived with primitive technology and revolutionary ideas. The species that proved fresh perspectives could accomplish what ancient wisdom could not. The species that changed everything by refusing to accept dismissal without examination. Admiral Ryan Mitchell stood in his office, looking out at Earth below. Blue oceans and green continents and white clouds. 7 billion humans living their lives unaware of the complex galactic politics happening above them. But they knew their species had achieved something remarkable. They knew Earth was respected among the stars. They knew the USS Endeavour and her sister ships protected human interests across light years of space. Ryan thought about that first meeting when Jacob Hayes tried to show the Council what humanity could offer. The dismissal and condescension. The absolute certainty that humans had nothing new to contribute. And he thought about the pirate battle that changed everything. 6 ships destroyed in 3 minutes. Weapons that should not exist according to galactic wisdom. Power that rewrote the rules. The galaxy had ignored Earth's prototypes, and that mistake had led to humanity's greatest triumph. Not through conquest or aggression, but through competence and innovation. Through building something the galaxy did not think possible, and using it to defend the innocent and eliminate threats. Through proving that power could serve justice and that strength could coexist with responsibility. Ryan turned from the window and pulled up the mission roster for next month. 15 ships on patrol, 8 on exploratory missions, 3 assigned to joint council operations, and the Endeavour, preparing for a deep space expedition to investigate phenomena beyond charted space. Humanity had come so far in just 5 years. From dismissed associate member to indispensable full member. From ignored primitives to respected innovators. From isolated world to galactic civilization. And it all started because one assessment team was too arrogant to actually examine the technology they were judging. Too confident in their ancient knowledge to consider that newer species might have valuable insights. Too comfortable in their assumptions to perform due diligence. That failure of imagination and intellectual laziness had cost the Council their monopoly on military superiority. It had cost pirate organizations their lives. It had cost the galaxy its comfortable certainty that they understood all possible approaches to technology. But it had given humanity everything. A place among stars. Recognition as equals. The opportunity to contribute and grow and explore. And most importantly, it had taught the galaxy a lesson they desperately needed. That wisdom required humility, and understanding required investigation, and progress required openness to new ideas regardless of their source. Ryan smiled slightly and closed the mission reports. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. Next week, Earth's representatives would present proposals for improved shield harmonization to the Council. Next month, the Endeavor would depart for unknown regions, carrying hope and curiosity, and the kind of determination that had brought humans from caves to stars. The galaxy had ignored Earth's prototypes, dismissing them without examination. They had looked at human weapons and seen only familiar concepts executed by primitives. They had made assumptions based on preconceptions and paid the price for their intellectual laziness. But that was behind them now. The future was cooperation and innovation and exploration. The future was humanity standing alongside ancient civilizations as equals. The future was bright with possibility because one species refused to accept dismissal, and one ship proved that assumptions were no match for reality. The stars belonged to those brave enough to reach for them, and humanity had proven beyond doubt that they belonged among those stars.